Hey, so I just saw Godzilla vs. Kong, and first of all, a big thank you to the people that got me an early screening of this. Sadly, due to technical difficulties, I couldn't get this out earlier, but I still want to say thank you. Anytime I'm invited to an early screening, that really means a lot, so thank you so much. I guess before I talk about this movie, I should say real fast what I thought of the ones that came before it, so you have some frame of reference. The first one, Godzilla with Bryan Cranston and Godzilla, I really liked when it hit Bryan Cranston and Godzilla, but they're not in the movie that much, so I thought it was mostly boring, but when they're in the movie, it was great, loved it. The second one, I believe, was Kong Skull Island, and as a Kong movie, it's not very, it doesn't have much to say, unlike other Kong movies, but for something that's meant to just get this team up going, I thought it was fun. I thought it was, still really crazy and intense and out there and just had a real good time with it. Then Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the follow-up, I thought was close to what a Godzilla movie should be. Like, it's one of those where you can't really tell if the corny writing was intentional or not, and I think that's what, like I said, a Godzilla film should be. So, kind of like the Expendables or Pacific Rim, it's like, is this intentional or isn't it? And then the sequels, it's like, yes, it is, please. So it doesn't go too far with that, so I liked it even though it was corny. The only nitpick I had, too much rain, too much stuff in front of them, so you can't see the monster fight as clearly. So that's my real fast cliff note thoughts of the first three films. Now we have this one, what's really all been building up to, Godzilla vs. Kong. I had a blast. I thought this film was a lot of fun. With that said, I think if you're not a fan of, let's say, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, I think that's the closest this is the most like, because, you thought it was too corny or didn't make a whole lot of sense or something like that. I don't know how much you're gonna get into this, because it is still corny, but it's again, done in the way that I like, where you're not really sure if they're aware that this kind of has a silly feel to it or not, even though they probably do, but it never lets on too much, like, say, Godzilla 98 or something like that, where it's like, yuck, aren't we silly? And the badass moments are appropriately badass. The setup, I won't give away too much in terms of spoilers or anything, but Godzilla goes after this place in, I believe it was in Hong Kong, and they're like, well, why? Why is Godzilla there? We thought he was the savior, which is already kind of a weird thing to assume, just because he destroys other monsters. He's still, like, attacking cities and stuff. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that, but he's the savior for just stopping other monsters, even though we have no idea if he has any interest in saving people at all, but he's now attacking people, it seems like, so they're like, well, we gotta do something about this, so logically, the people are like, we gotta get Kong in there, come on, it's King Kong, this is what everybody wants. And what I like about this film is that it early on introduces ideas beyond that. And I mean, they're not deep ideas or anything, but there's stuff you want to see in a film like this, in a giant monster versus a giant monster film. And the first, like, maybe 5 minutes, they talk about, again, without going too much into spoilers, the idea of, like, a hollow earth. Like, there's pretty much journey to the center of the earth. There's a center of the earth where these monsters probably come from. And, I mean, do I even have to say any more after that? Because this film takes advantage of that idea. They do exactly what you think they're gonna do with it. And that's already a lot of fun. But on top of that, what a lot of these films do, again, I think for the most part, giving people what they want to see, they introduce more than just Godzilla versus Kong. There is another monster in this. There's actually quite a few different types of creatures and stuff like that in this. So I really like, even though, honestly, Godzilla vs. Kong would have been enough, I like that they add more, and it does not feel overblown. It feels like, if we're gonna get this movie, and we got other Godzilla movies and, a Kong movie where, we know there's other giant monsters here, why not include all that in there? And why not have these callbacks and tie-ins to, this franchise that has tons of big monsters in it? And as I've watched the Godzilla films. I wouldn't say I'm like a huge fan. Like if you were to show me like 10 of the monsters, I wouldn't be able to name them all. But the other one that appears in this one, I was pretty excited to see. And the reasoning behind it, again, is pretty silly, but it's not... So, unlike the Godzilla 98 movie, which was pretty much just a cartoon, this one... Yes, it's also like a cartoon, but it's kind of like a Care Bears cartoon versus an X-Men cartoon. Like, there's kind of a really cool, gritty way to do it, even though you know it's kind of corny. And then there's one that just feels like it's talking to you like a child. This one feels like a good make-believe movie, where with something like Care Bears, it's like, we're not even trying. It's just cute bears saying cute things, whatever. Tee-hee-ha-ha, that's Godzilla 98. This one's like, yeah, we know you want to feel like a kid, but you want to feel a little bit like a grown-up too, so we're gonna kind of mix it up here a little bit. Where you had people taking the material seriously, and looking serious and everything. They got, this little girl who's deaf who forms a bond with Kong, and, why? Just because, because like she lost her family and then Kong, just saved her from this. Why would Kong save her from it? Who knows? But they share this bond and it's nice. But the mother in it is also, or not the mother, I'm sorry. What? Was she adoptive mother? I forget. But the caregiver, let's say that, is also like a scientist, but also kind of looks after her. But you believe both. She has a real passion that she brings to the role. And when she has to say scientific stuff, you believe it. When she has to, be a caregiver to this kid, you believe it. Both are very believable, even though it is corny. It's still, you got these corny scenes going on where, this podcaster and, the kid from Stranger Things, they try to sneak into this super high-tech, super secret, government base where they're trying to, make something here. And of course, they get in with, no problem whatsoever, and security waits, an hour and a half to, finally find these people. I shouldn't say it. The film is actually surprisingly short. It's not even 2 hours long, so I don't think it's an uber long film or anything. But that gives you an idea how long it takes for security to find them. But again, knowing enough about Godzilla films in particular, and even sort of the King Kong films, that's kind of what you want. You want where they still take it serious enough in the realm of the world they created. And with that said, when you actually get to Godzilla versus Kong, it's pretty goddamn sweet. The fights are really good in this. The director of this has done a lot of stuff that, hasn't blown me away that much. He did the Death Note movie and You're Next and a bunch of films that, I don't hate, but I wouldn't think twice about. I think he found his calling here, man, because I really feel like he knew how to really give something that visually looked great, was surprisingly imaginative, again, involving some of the elements with the Hollow Earth. When it gets to the fight scenes, you can see it. There's no friggin' rain or storm or anything like that. All you got is smoke debris, or you might have it at night, but even then, one of the fights is in Hong Kong, so it's really well lit, and the angles are wonderful. Every time a hit is given in this, you feel the impact of it. I'm really glad, again, I won't go into spoilers, but I'm really glad they did not do a Godzilla is being controlled by someone else thing. I really thought that's what they were gonna do, because they're like, why is Godzilla turned on us? That's not the reason. There's another reason, and it's a good one, or it's a satisfying one, let's say that. When these two meet, it makes sense why they would fight. Every monster they've come across, they just fight. Again, there's sort of this element of this is just nature going on as well, but you see sort of the evolution of the two as well and how they work off each other. And what I like too is that when it needs to be a Godzilla film, which this mainly is, but when it needs to be a Godzilla film, it is. You got the podcaster, and the Stranger Things kid, sneaking into the place, saying corny one-liners and stuff like that. But when it needs to be a Kong film, it's that too. This film gives what people want to see. They want to see Godzilla destroy, they want to see Kong discover, and they want to see them both fight. it gives you that. The interactions with Kong and the little kid in this is very sweet, and you weirdly believe it, again, in the reality that this movie creates. And the supporting cast is fine. Again, it's like Godzilla King of the Monsters, where if you really want to nitpick and be like, man, I really want to know what these people are about and what makes them tick and get into their psyche, I think you're not going to get that, but they're not annoying, with the exception sometimes of the podcaster side story, which I feel like some people are going to get really annoyed by, because honestly, in the grand scheme of things, you could have cut them out. They don't really do that much. It's more just sort of a way for the audience to sort of discover what they're discovering. But honestly, if you just cut them out and you had what was still going on just without them seeing it, the film doesn't change at all. But I also know that's kind of what you expect with Godzilla films, is that you do kind of have these semi-corny characters sort of saying one-liners, but they're not Godzilla 98, like where every character was like that, and they just weren't the tiniest bit believable. Again, like a Care Bears cartoon versus an X-Men cartoon. This is like the X-Men cartoon, in that sense, where it's trying to at least act a little grown up, or like Expendables and Pacific Rim, where, again, there probably is an awareness, but they're not making it super obvious. Like, I feel like the common person would watch it and not necessarily know, is it meant to be like this or not? And those are the films I like in terms of this category, because again, I feel like that's kind of what the original Godzilla films were. And again, they became clearly self-aware, and even early on, it's like, well, were they kind of self-aware? This is always a little silly and so forth. But this one still treats the subject material like, hey, we want to, act like this is a real, legit, big movie. Like, everything is taken, for the most part, seriously in the realm of this goofy world they've created, because let's face it, it's a goofy world. This is a very silly world where a giant lizard can fight a giant monkey. This is just how it works. So it gives you everything that you want to see in terms of a fight. It gives you everything you want to see. Honestly, in my opinion, in terms of some imaginative visuals, again, they really sort of play around with the idea of the hollow earth, and what's down there. I think the only nitpick I have for me is that while the fights are really good, there's honestly two big fights. Now, that sounds like a letdown, but it's really not, because you had the first fight that they get to in a fair amount of time. I mean, usually these movies, you're like, okay, just get to them fighting each other already. But they get there, in my opinion, the appropriate amount of time where you set up the people, you're with them on, their journeys and what they're doing and so forth. So they have the first fight, then you have, you need your break, obviously. You need the break, but it's not totally a break from the monsters either. You're really with Kong a lot in this, again, and I think that's what really sort of makes this a good combo of the Godzilla movies and Kong movies, is, again, you want to see Kong figuring stuff out. You want to see how he reacts to things. Kong always had a lot of commentary, and Godzilla does too, but I mean, not like Kong. Kong was just like 70% commentary, where Godzilla's like maybe 20%, in my opinion. I'm a Kong fan. Maybe that's why I'm saying that, but I do really like Godzilla as well. So you got him sort of going and discovering. You're with him a lot. You're with the monsters a lot. And then the second fight comes pretty much in the third act. And then I feel like there should have been another break, which is so rare that I say that, because it's like, just give us the fight and give us what we want to see. But I felt like with movies like this, where they're pretty well balanced out, after the second fight, there should have been at least a little bit of a break, and then the third fight. But it's more like they kind of have two big fights back to back. There's even a line where, somebody's like, again, not going too much into spoilers, but, second round goes to blank, again, I won't give it away, but then the other character gets up and they immediately start fighting again. I'm like, oh, well, I guess round 3 started already. So it's one of those things. I would have preferred a little bit of a break there, again, just to make it feel a little bit more balanced out, but in terms of pacing. But honestly, I was very satisfied with what I saw here. I'm glad it wasn't just Godzilla versus Kong, though that would have been totally fine. I'm glad that they added some more elements. I'm glad they introduced them very early on, to a point where, again, I'm not just saying, let's have Godzilla and Kong just fight each other. It's like, I want to see what they're going to discover. Even with the podcaster, kind of sneaking into this place, I was curious, what's there? What are they gonna find? And what they do find is not a letdown. The same thing with Kong. What they go to find with him is not a letdown. It is incredibly silly, of course, but it still works, again, in the environment that they've created for these characters and these monsters. And a quick... this isn't even a spoiler, but there's no after credit sequence. So if you're waiting, and like all of them they all have an after credit sequence, this one does not. That was also kind of a letdown, because it's like, oh, was that it? Because the movie ends surprisingly fast. There is not much of an epilogue at all. Again, I think they were just like, okay, did our thing, now let's get out of here, which, I don't blame. Again, they gave everybody what they wanted, but I feel like there should have been, even if they don't know if they're going to make another movie, it's like, just give us an after credit sequence anyway. Just do it. I mean, we're all waiting there, give us a throwaway joke. Have Captain America come out and say, yeah, sometimes life lets you down, do something like that. I don't care. But I thought this movie was very satisfying. If you're looking for something that's more serious, like I suppose the first Godzilla movie that came out with Bryan Cranston, it definitely does not take itself that seriously. But I also thought that movie was very boring. I didn't think the characters were very interesting. Let me put it this way. When I saw people running in that first Godzilla movie, I was concerned for them, like all the civilians and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, well, those people drowned, and those people were probably squashed. Where in all the films that came after it, I didn't give a shit. I don't think I'm supposed to give a shit. I think that's more like a traditional Godzilla movie. This is more my speed. I think this is more what people are looking for. But again, if you were a big fan of that first Godzilla film, the Bryan Cranston one, I don't know how much of this you're going to enjoy, with the exception of the fights, because the fight at the end of that movie was really cool, and the fights here are really great. So I definitely recommend it. I think if you look at the trailers and say, I want to see these two go at each other, I think you're going to get what you're looking for. Any complaints you have are probably going to be minor. Like I said, maybe just with some of the corny lines or characters, getting a little grating every once in a while, like I said, especially with the side story of the podcaster. But I really had a good time with this, and I think anyone that wants to see this is going to have a good time too. The only other thing I can think of, again, I've seen the Godzilla movies. I'm not an expert on it at all, and I've seen most of the Kong movies. So if there's any type of element that's in those movies, like something that's in every Godzilla movie that's not in this one, that's the only other thing I can think of. Like for diehard fans, I would assume they would like this, but again, I don't know the checklist of what's supposed to be in every Godzilla movie, so I don't know if it's missing something in that regard or not. But for me, who has seen a lot of these movies and enjoys them enough, likes seeing giant monsters fight each other in a film, I think this is really great. This is just a really, really good time. So, if you've checked it out, let me know what you thought, especially if you're a diehard Godzilla fan or a diehard King Kong fan. What did you think of it? Did you see any elements that you thought were missing or could be improved on? Because again, I like the movies, but I'm not an expert on it. So if you're like a diehard fan of stuff, that you see in every Godzilla movie that maybe wasn't here, or maybe little details that they had good tip of the hats to that maybe I missed, let me know in the comments, because I know both of these have a massive fan base, spanning over decades and decades. So I'd love to know if this was satisfying to you or not. And if you're just a normal moviegoer and just thought this looked like fun, did you have fun, or did you think it was just too lame with some of the characters and stuff? Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you next time. Take care.